Hello, hello. My name's Will, and today I'm here with a little game guide for RAD. So, I was playing RAD and really enjoying it. I ended up deciding I wanted to get all the achievements for it, but found that filling out the whole Tome of Ancients, the 100%, I think it's called Nerd achievement, something like that. There's not a lot of good places online to find just images basically of the finished Tome of Ancients to know what entries are missing. So I thought today I'd just go through and show you the completed Tome of Ancients so that you could see if you were missing anything, what it was. I also have a few tips that I'm gonna try and go through. And yeah, that's kind of it. Obviously spoilers. So here, let's just start.
Tome of the Ancients.
So this first tab is mutations, and it goes through the Exo Mutations. So each of these are the pretty standard mutations that you're just gonna get through leveling up. So there's not a whole lot to say about any single one of these. I think honestly, if you just sort of play the game, you'll hit most of these just in the time it takes to do the other achievements. So not a big deal there. One thing you can do once you've unlocked the first stage of any of these is to get these secondary stages. You can use one of the quirks that you get later, called de-evolution/unstable. That one's good because you start out basically with 3 fully leveled powers, and then they go away over time. So you can actually sort of just start that game over and over again, and that'll unlock these second stage mutations, and you'll get them that way. So let me just kind of casually scroll through all these so you can take a look at them, but these are all pretty straightforward, these ones are. Ones that aren't maybe is this egghead one. So maybe you've had these question marks down here for these 3 and didn't know how to get those. Well, basically you have to get the Cobra mutation, and while it's still level 1, you have to then eat those green radiated chickens that walk around back at the camp. So basically you have to get Cobra and then go back to camp and eat a couple of green chickens. I know for me it wasn't just one, I had to eat a couple. And then once you do that, these are just the level up versions of it, and you can get those either naturally or with that quirk that I mentioned before, the evolution one. Once you've gotten Egghead once, it's now added to the rotation, so you can get it like any other normal mutation. So then there's these bummer mutations, and basically these are when you get to the 3rd world, there's those pink craters, and if you walk into those for too long, it'll replace one of your mutations with one of these bummer ones. They're all bad. I think intentionally they're all bad. So you don't really want any of them, but you got to get them if you want to finish the Tome of Ancients. Alright, so now let's move on to the Endo mutations. There's not a whole lot to say here, except that one of the best ways to get these is just playing the game again. But also, once you upgrade the fruit grower in the town, there's a chance that one of the 2 fruits upgrades to one that gives you a free Endo mutation. So that can help a little bit. You can also kind of get these from, I believe Unstable also has a bunch of Endo mutations that you start out with, so you can kind of unlock them there too. Oh, Bodacious. Yeah, I wanted to mention this one specifically. So this one's really good. It doesn't give you a whole lot of detail of what it does, but essentially it's superior luck throughout the rest of the game. The first time you walk by a vendor, they'll usually just throw you a health potion, so that's an obvious thing that happens. But you're actually incapable of getting any of the bad Endo mutations anymore, so even from those broken Ender machines, they won't give you bad stuff anymore, so you can just take them without worrying about it. Yeah, so it's just a really good one to have in general. Makes everything just a little easier. I would say I think you even get more floppies, and I think it drops more discs. Don't quote me on that because I haven't looked at the code or anything, but it always felt like everything was just a lot nicer with it. So anyway, just moving on through these. Yeah, I think that was the major stuff I want to talk about for these, and there's still quite a few to just kind of go through, so just, you know, work through them. Oh, I know a couple of these. That's worth saying. Okay, so we're in the negative ones now, but some of the positive ones, you actually have to get via like shot things that you find out in the world. I think any of the power specific ones are kind of like that. So here, let me get to the bottom here of these, and then I'll just pop back up real quick. So like these guys, the sand gills, the side lobe, the X-ray vision, not vampire kits. That's just a normal one. But so this group right here, basically for all of these, you have to have that power, and then usually I believe it's in about the second world, killing enemies and also the piles in the underground area. Those will sometimes drop these specific Endo mutations for the powers that you have. So that's pretty much what you gotta do to farm those, is just get the power and then run down there and hopefully find that stuff. I know that for me, once I realized which of these I was missing, because this was one of the major things I couldn't really find easily, was what these question marks were. And so like horsepower, for instance, I don't think I knew, because I usually didn't do very well when I had the base mutation, so then getting the shot was harder because I had to get further in the game for it. But that's how that is. I think you can kind of, yeah, it pretty much tells you what they go to, you know, fire, going, toxic bladder, all these. Anyway, I believe that's enough on that. Let's just quickly go through the quirks. I know that Keymaster was one of my favorite ones. It just helps to be able to get more floppies all the time. You're never at a loss to open up the chests and get the artifacts and all that stuff, so it helps to speed along completion too when you don't have everything. Cheapskate's great, but you know, I just feel like keys are more useful usually. Yeah, whatever. I don't even think I use these ones very often. I mean, that's nice. Okay, so the made one, right? That's a whole nother achievement on its own, and I don't want to go too far into it, but like, basically, you know, you don't get any mutations, you just have to beat the whole game with a baseball bat, and that's not too bad. I actually, I'm not trying to brag, I did it first try, but I had played the game a lot before that, so I think that one of the main things that helped was I knew the enemies' patterns, so I could, you know, avoid them better. Crit juice was a godsend for the bosses. Do not forget the crit juice. And I had the one bat, we'll get to it I think in the next section, but the one that's extra long, so I had the extra long reach. Anyway, just a few little tips there. Let's see. Yeah, brittle. Shark style is actually very useful because you can move faster as long as you don't stop moving. And I use this to actually farm the shots for the Exo Mutations. I'll show you in a minute. They're on the next tab, but keep Shark Style in mind for that. I'll bring it back up again. Yeah, so these are just so Unstable and De-Evolution. Yeah, so these were the ones I was talking about. Unstable is kind of interesting because every time you get hit, it gives you a different mutation, so that's sometimes useful, but De-Evolution was the one that's the like chef's kiss. That helps you get any mutations that you're just like missing the higher stages of, because you can just restart the game real quick and eventually you'll get it. And yeah, that's kind of cheesy and maybe not super fun, but if you've already played the game a bunch and you're just like, why don't I have like the secondary thing for like the spikes or something, you know? That way you can get it without having to just constantly play the game and everything. Anyhow, moving on to items. Most of these you just find, right, like throughout the game, so I think that there might be a level of like the more you play, some of these higher level ones become more common, right? Fruit King, I know, yeah, it's just in the last part. That wasn't the one I was thinking of. I was thinking of this one, the RAD Fruit King. I don't think that there's a way to get this other than if you've done the whole farming line, so that this is the one that sometimes gives you that sometimes shows up instead and gives you the Endo mutation, so just, I guess, keep that in mind. It's how you get that one. I know that this triple snack stack, I didn't see these until I'd already beaten the game several times, so I think that they don't really show up until later. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I mean, my point is that, like, if you don't see it right away, it's probably just you haven't played the game enough. And you have to get through every ending anyway for this, so no rush, you know? Anyway, the battle hearts. Heart of the Beast, this is the thing that drops that gives you the extra heart, like when you beat bosses. Crit juice, can't overstate how useful this is when you only have a baseball bat. Juice cleanses are nice too, yeah. Sorry, I might have gone through those a little fast. You can always go back and pause. This guy, in the comments, tell me what this is good for, because I just thought it was sort of like a gag item. So yeah, you know, not to ask too much, but if you got a good story about this one, let me know it. This is handy. This is really handy when you're trying to find bosses that you haven't unlocked yet, right? Because sometimes that takes a while, but otherwise, I also didn't see this till very late either, and by then I had actually seen most of the bosses, I think, so it didn't help me, but it could help, right? Good old Polyp Pal, yeah. Okay, so these guys, these are the ones that get those Endo mutations specifically, so these are the ones I'm talking about that you'll find mostly in the second world, I think, and a lot of times underground. So, yeah, that's where these are all going to come from. And so, these are boosts. So these are giving you those endos. These shots actually give you the... Oh no, these are more endos. Sorry. These are endos, but they're not exo specific as much, right? Waterproof is always nice. There's no overstating that. Yeah, so then, sorry, and then it goes back to these, which are specific to the Exo Mutations. And again, these like ice chest ones, these especially, I think, are the ones that you find when you break like the openable things in the underground sewer area. That's where these usually are, whereas these boosts are usually dropped by enemies. So that's been my experience. Again, I don't know that I have the 100% correct. Sorry, I went through those really fast. The 100% correct, you know, information. It's all just experience from playing the game for a bit. But yeah. Oh yeah, and any of these too. Like, so if you're doing the demade one, you really want like the raised heckles and the beefcake. Those are just helpful. I think even the mutation power helped, even though it only works on mutations. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think that it might stack with beefcake. So if you have beefcake and this, it's actually boosting that beefcake. I could be wrong. I don't know for sure. Okay, so these guys are very important, and yeah, I want to talk about them for a minute. So each of these, with the like special color, these come from these items down here. So each of these is paired with one from above, right? If you look through these, they correspond to each. So yeah, so basically how you get these items is in the first world on either of the two, you know, sub levels that you do of it. If you run through the underground, there's sometimes an opening that brings you out onto basically a really flowery, lush island that has a little skull guy on it that you can break, and he will always drop one of these items. The island itself does not always spawn. My experience doing runs of this, because this was literally the thing that took me the longest, was just getting all of these. Basically, it's about a 1 in 12. I would say. Again, I haven't seen the code or anything, but my experience just running it a lot of times gave me about a 1 in 12 feeling. So once you have this item, you then have to take it to one of those Minder offering guys, you know, the one with the tongue and everything, and you'll drop this item in, and it'll drop this shot, right? And then these shots will give you this particular mutation. Now, super word of caution, because it's the worst when this happens, but if you're holding this item and you level up, you will immediately get the associated mutation and lose the item. That's kind of handy, like, to know about, but when you're trying to get these shots, man, I finally got one of them that I'd been waiting for so long, and I didn't realize, and I was just holding it, and I leveled up before I got to the offering thing, and then the item was gone, and I got the mutation. And it basically meant that I had to go back and find that item again. So yeah, just a word of caution. I think that's about all I have to say about that. But it's one of the main reasons I wanted to make this guide, aside from just showing everything, was this section of items, because they're a bit tricky. Yeah. Okay, so on to artifacts. Basically, I would say that the strat here is just, like I said, have the floppy, it's called Quirk. Yeah, the floppy Quirk, and then just open everything, and you will basically come across all of these eventually. The higher level ones that are the sparkly ones, I think a lot of times you don't see those till later in the game, and maybe even like after a few playthroughs. But same thing applies. You just kind of keep going, and you'll get them all. There's just one exception, and it's these guys. So there's an area that spawns. I believe it's in the first world. But if it's the second, no, I think it's the first. Where there's like these arcade machines there, and then you have to break those. Like you basically hit the arcade machines, and there's a chance that either this guy or this guy will pop out. So basically, when you're doing your runs, just hit those until you've got these. These are also a great artifact because they auto target things. It just helps. Okay, so let's move on to weapons. I don't have a ton specific to stay here. The Death Gobbler's nice early on because you just get more experience quicker, so you get through your mutations quicker and everything. A lot of these I never really even use. This is the one that I was talking about that has the like extra reach. It's very, very nice, I would say. Yeah, and then this one's fun. It's literally a leg of meat, right? And when you get hurt really bad, basically you'll eat one part of it so that you can get more health back. So as long as it has, all the extra bits, it does more damage, I guess. But then after you eat it up, it doesn't do as much damage anymore. It's just kind of a funny one. Okay, so that's a lot of my like real tips, I think. Yeah, so there's just basically the enemies to go through now. I don't have anything super revolutionary to say about any of these guys. Like, you kind of just got to learn how they move and, not get killed by them as much. There's not a whole lot there. Some of these, like, just looking at their pictures, you might not even realize which ones they are in the game because they just feel so similar to other ones. And that's actually a bit of a learning curve, too, because even though they look pretty similar, they do very different things and behave very differently. Not like so differently, but like there's enough of a difference that it matters. Yeah, I don't know what else to say really about them. These guys, jeez, yeah. The robots that teleport all around, yeah, and the corrupted stuff. Man, that stuff is a pain. Yeah, and I know one of these, this guy had like the shield or whatever. He's always tricky because you got to get around behind him to hurt him. Anyway, let's go to bosses. So like these guys are all, the bosses that you face. These ones up to Badonk are all the first. This is all the first section. So first world, sorry, not the Vigilus, but down to Badonk. These three have a lovely singing voice. None of those ones are too hard. Then in the second section, right, you've got the Vigilus and the Conjoined, and these guys are definitely like easier than Barkley and Hardwood, in my opinion. I've had a lot of trouble with Barkley and Hardwood. They're very much run-enders for me, and I know that I've seen that online too. I think one of the most, straightforward ways to do it is just crit juice up and just wail on him. Like that's like the only thing that ever seemed to work for me. Or that, or just, get lucky and get to Vigilus or the Conjoined, because they're easier to deal with, even though there's a lot of enemies in those ones. But yeah, so that's just, that's everybody. First section, second section, the Colossus is always what you fight on the third one. I think he's actually like the easiest boss. Like if I ever get to him, I already know the run's done, because unless I jump off intentionally for an achievement, I've never lost that fight. Okay, so then this last tab is literally just like story stuff. So the characters that you will literally just come across as you're playing, they'll get added here, and I went through those really fast if you wanted to read any of that, but you know what? You probably already have it, and you can always pause. So then the endings, literally to get these, you just need to beat the game repeatedly. I think every time you beat the game, you get a new one of these, and then once you've beaten it to tomorrow, you just keep getting tomorrow, I think. Yeah. Okay, so then the lore is probably the only other thing that I have any form of tip about. One thing to notice is whatever the picture over there on the side is, that's like tells you what world it is. So this is all World 1 stuff, and World 1 has the most, which is nice because you'll probably spend the most time in World 1. This now transitions to World 2, and these are going to be always underground. So the World 1 ones are, I think, always above ground. I don't think I've ever seen one below ground. Yeah, so you just kind of run around and you see them, and then these are all below ground in the second world, in those same sewers and everything that you'd be running through for the other stuff. And basically, you just always want to find and use these when you can, because there's no fast way to do it. You basically just have to do runs and find them, just get lucky. And this is what the third area looks like. These guys are always in, like when you teleport up to the platform and then you go inside of an area, there's a chance that this is what's at the end of it, along with like a bunch of things you can open and whatnot. So yeah, I mean there you go. That's the whole Tome of Ancients right there. Hopefully that was helpful. I maybe rambled a bit, so I'm sorry for that. I might try to do some timestamps, or I guess I'll cut that out if I don't do that. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. Throw me a like if you liked it. If you disliked it, I don't know why you watched this far, so you're probably not listening to me when I say throw a dislike on there. Anyway, that's enough from me. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.